funny how for all you've done to your bodies, it's still real to me, damn it. I mean,
hey, welcome to the podcast where it's still real to us. We are very lucky tonight, very honored. And if I get his name wrong, he already told me he was coming through the screen and kicking my ass. Jeff Klepper is on with us tonight from the Fallen at the School of Morton. Is that correct too, sir?
From the Kingdom of Perfection.
Kingdom of Perfection.
Yeah.
What happened to the Fallen? Did you just did it
so I was never actually with the Fallen. I was with EGC with Judas. And so we ended up breaking up because Ricky Dooley decided he wanted to be a freaking hillbilly again. So we decided that
no, not Richard Dooley.
Yeah, he's got one coming as soon as I get my hands on him. But he did help me realize that I didn't need that stupid EGC to survive in SOM.
No, sir. One of the most physically intimidating wrestlers. I am a member of the SOM family. I have the Ricky Morton membership, and you know, to start tonight, and then we'll go to Joseph. I'm a fan. More than anything, I'm a fan of your work. You told us just a little bit about your story, but you kind of there's more than one style within what you do, but it's all physical.
So I try to incorporate different styles. Some of my influences in wrestling were Arn Anderson, Great Muta. So a lot of my influences influenced the style that I used. I'm actually a black belt in Taekwondo. I grew up taking Taekwondo as a kid. And so I incorporate a little bit of it, but I don't use my martial arts as much anymore because I'm not trying to be flashy. I'm just trying to hurt you.
USTA or ITA, sir?
Actually, it was WT.
WT.
It was WTF, World Taekwondo Federation. Yep.
So I'm USTA. I'm a black belt in USTA. I'm a second degree black belt. So,
okay.
So whenever you said that, that just kind of perked me. I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. You learn something new every day.
Right.
I'm a 6th degree black belt at the local buffet.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, we all got to be there, Howie, someday.
Hey, I'm a degree black belt in Tennessee, just scored and went up by 9. So,
all right. I like it.
Joseph, do you want to fire us off here? Of course, we've got Howie Channey, a member of the cast from day one, our special guest the last couple of weeks from Wrestle Talk and the School of Morton, the Rabbid Beaver. I just call him the angry Joseph Hughes. But Joseph, go ahead and fire us off with some questions.
Absolutely. So I know that you told me privately that it took you a long time to get where you're going here. So let's just start at the very beginning. Let's go back 14 years ago. Who trained you and how did you break into the business?
So in the very beginning, basically what I did is I went to a local promotion and asked how I got in. And they said, come help set up the ring and we'll train you. So I went, I helped set up the ring and they showed me, how to bump, things of that nature. I think I might have done about a month's worth, but I got tired of waiting. I thought to myself, I knew what I was doing. So I jumped out early and ended up getting a lot of injuries right off the bat. About 4 years in, about 3 years in, I decided, something's got to happen. I would contact people and they wouldn't bring me on. I would talk to people and they had already heard, I would go and basically be working a lot of the shows that others would not want to. And so about 4 years in, 3.5 now, Ricky Morton decided to open up the school with James Strange and Chucky, the School of Morton. And so I told my family, I said, you know what? I'm going back. I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to get trained the right way. So I went back to School of Morton at when it was in Chucky. And the original trainers were James Strange's son, Brent, Ricky Morton, and Chase Owens. So all three of them had a hand in actually training when I was learning the right way, had a hand in training me to make sure that I was ready to go.
And what a ride it's been since then. And, you said that you had a hard time getting booked, had a hard time going places. Since that time that you actually got properly trained, have the doors opened up for you? Do you think that the floodgates have opened for you?
Well, some started opening up, but really when they started opening up is about 3-4 years ago when I said that I was tired of just doing the norm. So I went to the gym, started working out, started eating right, put on about 40, 50 pounds. And ever since then, since I bulked up, that's when the doors really started opening. I also had to say, because for a lot of my career, I would do both. I would referee and wrestle. And I had to get to a place where I stopped leaning on that crutch of referee and just focus on wrestling. And when I did that, it also opened doors.
See, that's very interesting you say that, because there's a lot of people who are stuck in that rut, Mr. Klepper, right now, to where they're in the business and they want to be in the ring and they want to be talent in the ring, but they're stuck as either being a ref, or they're stuck as being a ring announcer, or they're stuck as being commentary, and they don't know how to move into the direction that they need to go. Could you speak a little bit about that for just a second?
So basically what I had to end up doing, because I was told by numerous people that I should try out as a referee for some of the bigger promotions. A lot of the guys that I worked for, like Tony Givens, people like that, told me that, how good of a referee I was. I put the motions into it and everything. But I told my wife, I didn't get into wrestling because I wanted to be Earl Hebner, and no disrespect to Earl, no disrespect to any of the referees that went before, but I didn't get into wrestling for that. I got into wrestling because I wanted to be, Sting, Great Muta, Shawn Michaels. I wanted to actually wrestle, not be a referee. And I had people tell me all the time, do what you're best at, be a referee. And I wasn't willing to do that because that's not why I got into this. So I had to eventually say, you know what? I'm not taking ref bookings anymore. And to those guys that you're talking about, that's the only way they're going to do it, is if they tell people, look, I'm not taking referee bookings. If you want to bring me in as a wrestler, I'll do it. But as far as referee, I'm done with that. So,
now,
that's what I ended up having to do. I hung it up. I actually put a symbolic picture on Facebook. I took a picture of the shirt hanging up and I said, I'm done. No more referee for me.
Now, when you made that decision to move strictly into the ring as in-ring talent, did it hurt you in a way? Did people want to squash you because they didn't think you were ready for that move?
Not really, because I kind of made the transition slow. A couple of years ago, my shoot job is I'm actually a school teacher. And so when I started teaching, I didn't want to get hurt and risk my job. So I took strictly referee bookings. And so when I slowly started making the transition back to wrestling, but by that time I had put on the weight, I had gotten back to training. I was training, multiple days a week, getting ready to get back in. And so when I finally decided to, I also went the direction of not calling people, but going and introducing myself. Hey, I'm so-and-so. Can I help set up? Can I help tear down? And, I've got my stuff if you need somebody. If not, then, hey, it was nice to meet you. And, hopefully you keep my contact information. So I didn't go about it like I did the first time either, because the first time around it was contacting promoters and like, hey, I'm so-and-so. And they're like, who are you? I don't have a clue who you are. but this time I went and introduced myself. And to be honest with you, my wife did some math for last year, and I think it was something like 12,000 miles that we traveled.
That's awesome. You've
Yeah.
been on the road. That's a good feature, man. That's a good road warrior saying. So 12,000 miles for those of you that aren't equal. So if you're spending 70 to 75 hours a week on the road, that's 3,000 miles a week. So he's done about a couple months worth on the road full time is what he's done. And that's an awesome feat, Mr. Klepper, that you've got there. We talked about it a little bit earlier about you being at the School of Morton. You've been there 11 years, I do believe. And you started with Mr. Forrest, and I don't want to mess his name up. I believe it's Hurlenbrink. Is that right? Hurlbrink. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so Forrest, he actually worked as Sir. Oh, what was his name? We were the original EGC. He and I, and I cannot think of what his work name was, but Forrest was my partner, my original partner in the EGC, and we won multiple tag titles. James loved us because we were that old school tag team. We did the illegal tags. We did everything that a person that loves old school wrestling wants to see. We beat everybody up. We would cheat, do whatever it took, and that's why we won the titles as many times as we did, because he and I were willing to do whatever it took to get those belts. Eventually Forrest left. And Sir Derek Williams, that's what it was. So Derek eventually left, and it ended up being me and Richard Dulé. This is actually the second time that we ran together as the EGC. And we ran together for a while. I spent quite a bit of the time that I've been there in tag teams and about 5 or 6 years as the EGC.
And moving forward from that, you mentioned earlier that you're becoming a member of the Kingdom of Perfection with Andrew Thomas. So there's a little bit of a weird dynamic here because you were with Judas and EGC for so long. You've moved out, you've stepped out, you started doing some stuff by yourself, and now you're with Andrew Thomas. How did that come about, sir?
So I went up after Richard Dulé started his trash. He started this bull crap about I'm Ricky Dooley and started coming out with the moonshine and everything and started running his mouth to everybody and causing me issues. I spent time in the ward and everything because I was having a conflict because I couldn't decide. I was seeing both and everybody's like, no, it's just one. And everybody lying to me is what it was. But anyway, when I finally got out and I came back to SOM, I kind of went on a losing streak. Because of all that stuff messing with my head, guys would get one at the last second, they would get over on me. They would roll me up or they would do something. And just because I was so lost. So I called Andrew. You can see it on the video. But I called Andrew and I said, look, bro, I need help. I need something. I need to do something. I'm not winning at all. And so Andrew said, hey, bud, and he and I, we've ran the Kingdom of Perfection at Resolute Wrestling for a while now. He, myself, and Jackson Black, we run the Kingdom of Perfection there. And he said, how about we bring the Kingdom to SOM? I said, brother, I love it. So he helped me realize, that I'm 2. And everybody's like, you're 2. And I said, yeah, I'm too sexy, right? I'm too good in the ring, and I'm dang sure too great for everybody to hate. So I am ready to get in the ring at SOM and be that too great to hate with Andrew Thomas and be the Kingdom of Perfection. And of course, put some more gold under my or around my waist for a while.
Howie, do you have anything right now?
Sorry about that. You caught me mid-drink. I kind of want to back up a little bit if you don't mind, and what made you want to get into wrestling?
Um, so I'm actually 43, right? Which means I grew up watching NWA. When WCW first took control, and of course WWF, but I wasn't really into WWF until until probably the 93 when Raw came on. I was more WCW and NWA. And one of the things that I would actually do is when I would be watching a pay-per-view or whatever, I would get the pillows or the couch cushion and I would wrestle with the couch cushion and, body slams and pile drivers. So I was wrestling, back then. And me and my friends, when we actually had our own, it wasn't backyard because we didn't do the stuff that backyard does. We didn't hit each other with light tubes and things like that. We actually did wrestling, as far as kayfabe wrestling, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So we got together and we would do like leagues and things like that of wrestling. And it was a love that I had my whole life. When I was 18 years old, I actually talked to Jimmy Valiant, and I was going to go to his school and train with Jimmy. Unfortunately, I was fresh out of boot camp and just didn't have the funds at that time. I can't remember, it was $2,000 or $3,000, I believe, but I just didn't have the funds to go, so I wasn't able to. And so it was actually 10 years after I decided to go to was going to go to Jimmy's. It was actually 10 years before I actually got to get into the business.
Was there one particular match or one particular person that you saw and you're like, man, that's who I want to be like, or that's who I want to be, or kind of contribute to that?
So my influences today are actually kind of weird, because the original people that I saw and wanted to be like was Sting and Shawn Michaels. Those two are actually my top two favorite wrestlers of all time. But my influences today are actually different because I'm not a good guy. I don't want to be in there kissing babies and shaking hands. It's not me. As a matter of fact, I wrestled a match not long ago in front of Dr. Tom, and Dr. Tom come to the back and he goes, "Well, there's one thing for sure." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "You're not a baby face." So, so my influences now are guys more like Midnight Express, Arn and Tully, especially doing the tag team thing. Arn is one of my biggest as far as influences move wise and things, because he didn't, he was no nonsense. He didn't get in there and try to do fancy stuff. He just hurt people. And that's what I like. I like getting in the ring and just going to it, no fancy, no flips. I can't do flips, just hurt people. And that's what I do.
Let's say if somebody is watching this podcast here that's never saw you wrestle before, who is the person that you could say, hey, if you watch that person, that's who I'm kind of like?
Nowadays it would definitely be Arn. Arn, I get in the ring and that's who I try to emulate is Arn. Character wise and who I act like, not necessarily move wise, but who I act like. I try to emulate a lot of Chris Candido and Stan Lee stuff. That arrogant, I'm better than you, you don't belong in my ring type attitude. But move wise, once we get down to it, Arn Anderson, because I'm trying to hurt you and I'm going to.
Good deal. Randy, what you got for us?
That just spoke to me that, I took a run to try to get in the industry, and I was halfway trained and got a little job working for the NWA as security. But when I made the move and I tried to become a real trained professional, I wasn't athletic enough. And I thank God I had people that told me that. Was there ever a point when you were moving from, okay, I'm going to get serious about this, to I'm going to be a well-rounded wrestler? Was there ever a point that you questioned yourself?
Not once I actually got started. There was a point when before I started working out and things, because guys just kept discounting me. Nobody believed in me. I didn't have any kind of size, and basically I was trying to emulate everybody I saw. And I was a huge Ring of Honor fan, so I was trying to do all of that stuff. Especially with the martial arts background, that was what fit the most for me. And there were times where, and my wife would tell you, there were times where during that period where it's like, you know what, maybe I don't belong in this. Maybe it's the referee thing. Maybe I should stick with it and just say the heck with the wrestling. But that was one of the things that School of Morton did for me, because they made me believe in myself. They made me, I stuck around and constantly, James was putting us in matches, and then he would give his, he would tell us how good the match was and how good I was getting when I would wrestle on things. And so that really helped. But once I started working out and things, no, I wasn't letting anybody tell me anything. I knew that if I put my heart and soul into it, that I could do it.
Well, unfortunately, I'm 6'5" and 300 pounds and as athletic as a hot dog. So that kind of ruined me there. But I'm glad you had that ability. The second thing I want to, and then I'll go back to James.
Okay.
You said the word, I'm a natural heel. Even me as a fan, I'm a heel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like good guys. I hate the good guy storyline. But you give me a great heel. You give me Bobby Eaton in the Midnight Express.
Right.
You give me, at his very worst, a Randy Orton or Terry Funk when he's wrestling Dusty Rhodes. And I will sit for hours and watch Terry Funk films. Heel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a mind. In my head, I like the heel character. I like that heel wrestler a lot better. Is it the same for you, or is it something inside of you that makes you want to be a heel?
It's actually not the same. Almost all of my favorite wrestlers of all time have been better baby faces. Sting, Shawn Michaels, because those were my favorites growing up. AJ Styles is one of my favorites now. So I'm actually, I'm more of a babyface fan, but I'm just naturally, I'm naturally a jerk, and that's why I'm good at being a heel, is because I'm not that wanting to kiss babies and this, that, and the other. I'm just naturally a jerk. And it just shows, it just comes out because, I dealt with people messing with me my whole life when I was a kid. And, I put up with all of the bully and pick on and things. And I'm just not that person. You know what? I don't like you. Get out of my face. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what makes me a better heel.
You're on Joseph, I'll go to you, but you're on RiverCity-Media, where Terry Gordy is held in the highest esteem. So,
oh yeah,
we walk out the door and we can look up at Terry's house. So, I don't know if that was why I was attracted to heels, but that's a great answer. I really appreciate you coming with that, Joseph. You asked this man better questions than I do, so let's go back to you.
Well, hey, can I stop you, Joseph?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the score, boss?
Tennessee's up 13.
All right.
Wofford just made a run, cut it to 8. Then Tennessee flipped them a couple of times. Wofford's playing good.
I got a real quick question,
Go
or
ahead.
not a question, but a comment. I'd hate to be the parent that would show up at a parent teacher meeting with you on the other side of the table.
I was thinking that, but I didn't say it. All right.
Actually, if you can believe this, in the classroom, like most times, I'm one of my kids' favorite teachers. Um, I I'm actually, even though I said I'm a natural jerk, that's wrestling wise and things like that. But when it comes to teaching, I love my kids. I love my job. I love what I do. And as far as I'm an 8th grade teacher, so when we do parent teacher conference, we don't get a whole lot of kids or a whole lot of parents. So
Go ahead, Joseph.
As a parent of a 9th grader, all your kids are heels anyway, so it don't matter.
That's
facts.
right.
That's absolute facts.
Well, you mentioned the Stinger earlier. Today is actually his birthday. So first and foremost, happy birthday, Sting. We want to give that shout out to you. Secondly, you talked about Arn Anderson, and I think you actually put it best. Arn was all business when it came to being business, when it came to wrestling, when it came to the business of wrestling, when it came to being in the ring. But you got to see the history that took place in his life, much like yours, where they had a business completely stripped away from them and they had to find their own way in the industry again. And if those of you don't know what I'm referring to, it's referred to as Black Saturday, where the business was taken completely out of their hands at Georgia Championship Wrestling, and it was given over to those in New York. And so they had to find a way to make it back into the business, to be that person. And your actions inside the ring, the way you hold yourself outside the ring, the way you talk to people around the ring and around the intercom and being put on promos, it reminds me a whole lot of the Anderson boys, both Ole and Arn together. And I think that's one of the biggest compliments I can give you without making your head blow up. I mean, I don't really want to make your head blow up, but man, you really do. You really have that. You have that energy that is just almost them reincarnated once you get inside the ring and once you start working. So I guess the question comes is, was that who you would really want to be if you had a chance to go back and live in those times and be in that era? Would that be the main influence on you?
Probably not. If I was to have been able to do it in the 80s or the 90s, I was, like I said, Sting and Shawn Michaels were my guys. I would have wanted the technical ability of Bret Hart because I was always a Bret fan too. The technical ability of Bret and the charisma of Sting and Shawn Michaels would have probably been more, because if I would have been able to do it, in the 90s or if I'd have been able to start when I was 18, I would have actually been a high flyer, because in Taekwondo, I was the stunt guy. I was the guy doing the flying side kicks over people. We had a demonstration team, and I was the guy doing the big kicks and the high stuff and things like that. So if I would have started when I wanted to, I would have been a high flyer.
And you said, it took you a long time to get into the business and break in because, first of all, you said that you didn't have the funds earlier. So this is really a story of perseverance. If you've got a desire, you've got something that's burning on the inside of you and you want to do it, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's wrestling, whether it's playing the guitar, whether it's doing art, whatever it is. If you have a desire to learn something and want to be something, you have to persevere in it.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Klepper, speak about the art of persevering, because there's probably been many a times where you could have just walked away and said, I'm completely done. I'm not doing this no more. It's never going to be a dream that's going to come to pass, but it did. So you're the perfect candidate for this.
So honestly, just about everything I've had to do in life, I've had to persevere. With wrestling, I started at, in my late 20s. Is when I started wrestling. When I was in the military, it was a constant battle of perseverance. And that's another reason for the natural heel, by the way, is because I was actually training to be a drill sergeant before I got out of the military. But even with going back to school to be a teacher, I went back to school in my 30s. to become a school teacher. And so everything, I realized that you have to push, you have to persevere beyond what you believe you're capable of. When I was in high school, if you'd have told me I was going to college one day, I'd have told you were crazy. But when I went to college, I graduated. It wasn't a 4.0, but it was right below. I had a 3.87 GPA, and I'd have never believed that, because I wasn't the kid in high school that was, that was busting his hind end doing his work. And with wrestling, the same thing. One of the very first bumps, this will tell you about how I thought that I was. One of my very first bumps that I took at School of Morton, I took a arm drag, and my legs were just flopping everywhere. And that was one of the things James fussed at me originally for, and actually tore my ACL the very first time I went there. So if you look at when you go, Joseph, when you go Sunday, if you look at that picture that has me and Ricky Dooley, the original picture, it's Buddy Landell, Ricky Morton, me, Ricky Dooley, and some other students that are no longer there. If you look, you'll see that I've got a knee brace on. And that's because I tore my ACL the very first time I went there. Ever since I started wrestling, I've had neck injuries. I've had like herniated discs. I've torn my ACL. I've torn my rotator cuff. Broke my ankle last year. So it's been a battle of perseverance. And actually, I have anxiety disorder that now because of something that happened in wrestling, because I took a choke slam on a concrete floor and it busted my head open. But I fought from all of those to come back. And now the big perseverance is, trying to maintain bookings, being 43, because it is, you see all these young guys that the NWA wants the young guys, WWE wants the young guys, but there are still promotions out there that will bring in guys my age as long as they know what they're doing. So, but it has, just because of my age, that's another thing I've had to persevere and watching these guys get those spots.
Well, the beautiful thing about wrestling, though, is like you said, a lot of the big companies are looking for the young talent, the hot talent, the ones that have it all. But what they don't realize is sometimes there's still some old dogs that can really put up a good fight. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, you'll see one go through to one of the big promotions and get a good spot with them because they still got it. They've got the in-ring work. They've got the mic work. They've got the out-of-ring work that they do with promotions, making sure that the city's taken care of, that they can go out and be on radio and television and promote the promotion really well. And you'll see that every once in a while, but not very often. But it does happen. And that brings me up to my next point. April 5th and 6th, the School of Morton is hosting the Cobra Strikes Back. They have a seminar on April 5th. That's going to be $100 per person, Mr. Klepper. And it's going to host Mr. Santino Marella is going to be there. You're also going to have Aaron Stevens, who is scheduled to be there. Also, Carson Drake is scheduled to be there. And several others. Joe Kazana is supposed to be there. So you have NWA territories that are going to be looking, TNA territories that are going to be looking for fresh talent and some people that can wrestle. So the question becomes, are you going to be there, sir?
Yeah. As soon as they announced it, I told them that I would be at the seminar. I do just about any seminar that I can go to because, if there's one thing I've learned through Taekwondo, through different things that I've done my whole life, and that is, the only way to learn is to learn off of those that do it. Or the only way to get better is to learn from those that done it. And Santino, and I know that a lot of guys talk about, seminars and whether they're worth it and that they're, that sometimes they're money grabs and this, that, and the other. But the fact is, Santino knows stuff about this business I don't know.
Right.
Joe Kazana knows things about this business I don't know. Carson Drake, all those guys, they know, even if, for example, even if the guy doesn't know everything, because none of us do. I mean, Ricky Morton's my trainer, but I guarantee you Ricky Morton has not taught me everything he knows.
Right.
Because Ricky, one of the things that he told us when he was training us, one of the things he beat into our heads is you can always learn. So yeah, I advise anybody that can, like I said, I've already paid my money. I'm planning to go. And it's not so much because the NWA is going to be there. I mean, yes, it's an opportunity, but anytime that I can get a chance to better myself in the ring, I take advantage of it. I've done seminars with Les Thatcher. I've done seminars with Aaron Stevens, Jay Lethal, Dr. Tom. I mean, anytime that I can get with somebody that knows this business more than I do, I take advantage of it to learn more about this business.
Amen.
Mr. Howie?
Yeah, I got a few questions. I normally don't take notes, but I actually did tonight. So the first one I got is past or present. Which wrestler would you love to be able to wrestle?
So my dream opponent, I've already actually wrestled, so I'll go with my next one. But my dream opponent was always Ricky Morton, but I actually got to do a tag match with him a couple of years ago. But past or present, AJ Styles.
That's
Why
a
is
good
that?
answer.
Why AJ?
Because in my opinion, AJ Styles is one of the best to ever do it. He's the best out there today. And he's always been one of my favorites. He's one of those that's had to mix it up. He's like 47, I believe, right now. And I've watched him go from that high flyer to now he uses, he still does high flying, but at the same time, he knows how to use the ground game as well. So definitely him. One other that I would add to the list that I would love would be Sting. Sting is the reason, he's the main reason that I got into the business, because I absolutely loved watching what he did.
I know it's going to be hard to believe, but I actually got it right here. My next question is Sting. Which one did you like better, Surfer Sting or Crow Sting?
I think that depends on my age. As a kid, it was definitely Surfer Sting, but as I got older, I understood Crow Sting more. He's another one of those that's been able to adapt his character the whole career. And when he started the Crow, it wasn't long. If you read the story, it wasn't long after he had gotten in church and gotten his life straight. And it was a way to get him away from that lifestyle. One of the things. But when I was younger, yeah, it was definitely the that blonde surfer dude. But nowadays, it would definitely be the Crow Sting.
Have you ever went out to a match and be walking around, which I know you probably don't high five the fans around ringside or anything, but
Right.
have you been walking around and see one of your students at ringside or anywhere?
Yeah, actually, I've wrestled a couple of shows where my kids showed up. And it's funny because I tell them at school before they even come out, I'm like, guys, look, I'm giving you a heads up now. I'm not Mr. K. I'm not the 8th grade teacher that you love. I am a jerk. And when I come out to that ring, you're not my student, and I'm not going to talk to you like you're my student. So, I give them that heads up. But I've had a couple come and see me, and it lights up my world when they come out, because they want to see what I do on the outside, which means I've impacted them enough that they care they care about my life. And that's kind of that's my thing with teaching, is changing those young people's lives. And that's what I love about wrestling is that I could impact somebody like Sting did me,
Did your students boo you when you came out?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. This last show that I was at that they showed up to, they actually laughed because, I don't wear tights and I don't wear, I wear trunks. And so it was seeing Mr. K in a way they had never seen. So they were laughing. So
Favorite wrestling moment of all time, whether it be yours or just something that you remember seeing or watching?
my favorite wrestling moment that I was a part of, like I said, was wrestling, getting the tag team wrestle against Ricky Morton. Because it was two of my favorite people in the match. I actually teamed with Stan Lee, and Stan Lee is one of the greatest heels of all time. And I've told him that numerous times. And Ricky Morton was on the other side. It was in front of Greene County crowd, which is my home crowd. So that would be my favorite that I'm in. But moment other than that, one of my favorite moments, and it didn't last long, but it really influenced my childhood, is when Sting joined the Horsemen.
Good
Yeah,
answer.
it only lasted like 3 weeks, if that, but it was. And definitely Shawn Michaels beating Bret Hart for the title.
Well, we're not going to have you very much longer on here because we know, it's getting close to our time limit. But let's get to know Mr. K a little bit away from the ring, if that's all right. My question that I ask everyone is, what do you got, Randy?
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Tennessee 15 with 4 minutes to play.
All right.
That's the sports extra real quick. I don't forget what I was going to ask. No, one of the questions I've asked everyone, whether it be a player, coach, whatever, is any superstitions that you got to do before you go into the ring?
No,
Or as one coach actually, I'm sorry to cut you off, but as one coach actually said, we don't believe in superstitions; it's routines. So, do you have a superstition or a routine that you have to do before you hit the ring?
Prayer. I pray before I go into the ring. Before I go out for my match. Usually, I'll offer my opponent or my whoever's in the match with me. I'll say, if you want to pray, I'm getting ready to. But absolutely prayer. It's a necessity. So, other than that, not really. Just getting ready.
Yeah, well, that's kind of leading into my next question. How do you prepare for a match?
So once I've geared up, once I've put all my gear on, I'll get my bands out, and I'll start stretching, and then I'll work up my biceps, work out my chest to get everything popping, and then stretch. Being 43, if I don't stretch, I'll know it when I get out there. Stretch, and then usually, depending on how long before the match, just sit down and talk to people. I don't stress about it, and I'm definitely not one of the guys that blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? I like to walk and talk. I'll say it that way.
So after a match, we know about your preparation after a match. How do you recover from a match?
So once I've changed and gotten back comfortable and everything, usually I try to sit and watch the rest of the show. If I'm main event on a show, then I just try to relax for a minute and get ready, but and help tear down if they need it. Usually they'll let me know, hey, you're pretty far away, so just take off, because I wrestle usually 3-4 hours away nowadays. But if I'm not main event, I'll sit down and watch the show. I'm still a fan. I still love wrestling, and like the fans are gonna see coming up, man. We just had a match at SOM, and they're gonna see it this Sunday. It'll actually air. And wait, when's this going up?
Oh,
This
we're
is
live right
You're
now.
live right now.
Okay, all right.
So you can talk about it. I was actually going to ask about it. So that's a perfect time, Mr. Klepper.
But there's a match on there that they're gonna see with Javen Myra, and everybody admitted they were a fan watching the match. All the guys in the back.
So I've got 2 more questions, and I'll turn it over to Joseph. My next one is kind of we'll leave it with we'll stay with you as far as the Waffle House. What is the go-to meal at the Waffle House?
I like the bowls. I like to get the bacon bowl. It's full of protein. It's the bacon, hash browns, eggs. Put a little bit of hot sauce and ketchup in there. With a glass of chocolate milk. So it's full of protein and it tastes good.
And my last one is going to be kind of a current deal right now. Your thoughts on John Cena turning heel?
I love it. I really do. My thing is he's earned the right to do whatever he wants, and it's his last year. So if he wants to be heel, people think, and some people I've talked to, they're like, oh, it's going to hurt him, this, that, and the other. I don't think it will. I think people understand it enough nowadays that it won't hurt him. But I do look forward to. But let me tell you what somebody said to me, and it actually made me think. But what if Cody Rhodes is actually the heel and it's a swerve, and they're going to turn on Cena at WrestleMania, and that's how Cody keeps the belt?
That's a good one.
Wow. Yeah. Never thought about that.
If not, then I see the reason for it, because babyface John Cena was not going to fight babyface Cody Rhodes for the belt.
Right.
Yeah, it wouldn't have sold WrestleMania tickets the way they need them to sell, but now they will. So.
I think they should have done the turn a couple years ago and let him build this whole storyline up.
Right.
But I mean, like you said, he earned the right to do what he wanted with his character, with everything that goes on with him. So I have to respect the decision that he's made to do it now. I just think it should have been sooner. I think it should have happened a lot sooner.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time and everything. We're not letting you go by no means, but I just want to appreciate you joining us tonight and everything. And it's been great hearing your story and being able to meet you and talk to you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all letting me come on. Anytime that I can talk about wrestling, I will.
Well, Mr. Klepper, before you go, you kind of hit on it a little bit. This Sunday, TV tapings will be going live for the School of Morton Mayhem, and you and the Kingdom of Perfection, Andrew Thomas, are going to be a part of that. Can you give us just a little bit of an insight of what's going to be happening there?
Basically, if I was to say just a little hint, pain. Andrew Thomas and I are going to show everybody the kingdom belongs in SOM, and we're going to run SOM.
Good answer, sir. QB, you got anything, sir?
No. Well, I got one thing. The Rhodes family are all egg-sucking dogs, so I think that's the best thing I've heard all day. Is
right?
Really the heel, because he is.
Yeah.
So, want to thank you for your time. Here's the only comment I've got, and this is the ultimate to me, that I watched your character, and I don't know what I expected this podcast to be, but then when I meet you, like so much, I find out there is so much behind the story. And I just want to thank you for time, for sharing, and being with us. And I have one last question. Do you find most baby faces irritating like I do?
Uh, they can be,
Yeah.
especially if you're talking like in the bigger promotions. Um, a lot of friends of mine and stuff like that in the indie promotions, I don't see as much, but on the bigger stuff, yeah, absolutely.
And Joseph, he was talking about wrestling and Ricky Morton. I remember in the day when I think I was becoming a wrestling fan, I was in about the third row, and it was one of those classic Rock and Roll Express matches. And Ricky was, of course, getting beat up by everybody, trying to tag Robert. And he looked over the bottom rope and put his hands out to the fans and said, "Help me."
Yeah.
At the moment, I finally realized what this was all about.
Yeah, oh yeah. Were you was that Smoky Mountain Wrestling?
No, that was NWA.
Oh, okay. Because Smoky Mountain Wrestling spent a lot. I don't know exactly where you're at, but being a Tennessee fan, I assume you're somewhere in Tennessee. But Smoky Mountain Wrestling was a big part of my childhood. So.
Yeah.
Well, there's two things there. One, Randy is old, so he's been around for quite a while. And number two, he's in Chattanooga, so
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
I will be 59 this year, so I got the end of the territory, and I got to be around the NWA when it was still running good, and of course the Rock and Roll Express versus Midnight Express. You talk about Sting. Well, that little period of the Rock and Roll versus Midnight probably made me become a wrestling fan, and of course, growing up with Terry or Gordy, knowing Terry all my life,
Yeah,
a wrestling fan. But I really appreciate the stuff you do outside the ring and the effort you make for our kids. Man, that's our next generation, and that means a lot to us.
absolutely. I appreciate that.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
So Joseph, you were wanting me to talk about. This is gonna be tough.
Yes, sir. Let's lead into it like this. So this past week, the SOM family and all of wrestling lost somebody great in the world of wrestling. Mr. Sean Carson, our sleaze daddy, as you see right there on the screen, has passed on. And we don't know the details, but I know that you were very close to this man. You had many matches with this man. You shared many locker rooms with this man. And we want to give you the opportunity to speak on his behalf just a little bit, sir.
So I remember when Sean first walked in wanting to train a few, years ago. And when he was first getting started, before he started the Sleaze Daddy or anything, it was the one thing that stood out was his passion for wrestling. He was like the rest of us. He wanted to be a part of it. And one of his biggest influences were his kids. He wanted to do good in the ring, and he would have them with him sometimes, and they would watch him wrestle. Sean was first and foremost, he was a great dad. He loved his kids to death. As a matter of fact, I seen many times where he would be like, "Guys, I just can't make the show because I've got to, my daughter's doing this or my son's doing this." And so first and foremost, he was a great dad. Sean and I, we rode the roads back and forth to different shows. We did Wrestle Talk together out of Knoxville. We rode to those shows together. The thing about Sean is he was always the guy that would make you smile. He would make the comments that would cause you to laugh. Even if he was mad, he was saying something to make everybody else laugh. And man, absolutely loved working with him in the ring. We teamed up a couple times, and we were also against each other a few times. And every time it was enjoyable. He was willing to listen. He was willing to listen when people told him what he needed to fix and things he needed to work on. He was listening. And I remember, you know, I remember us talking about one of the times we were going to Knoxville about we were going to hit the roads, and we were actually talking about putting together a tag team and traveling, because I was going to take him to some of the shows that I went to, but we never did because he was, with work and everything else, we just couldn't work out the schedule. Not a lot of people have, that weekend schedule of a teacher to where, you have weekends to travel. But, we talked recently, about a week or two before everything happened, and he was just talking about he missed it. He had taken some time off and he missed it. He's ready to get back in. And that was the last thing that a lot of people I've talked to said was that, he talked about he wanted to come back to the sport. He wanted to come back and get in the business again. And it just, so I woke up my Monday or Tuesday, I woke up and a friend of mine, which you know him as well, but Tyler Foshi, he had wrote me and he said, "Hey man, what happened to Sean?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I've seen all over Facebook that he passed away." And I couldn't believe it.
Nobody
Sean
could.
He was such a great dude, and he was only 28.
He's young. Yeah, he was young. So.
Yeah. And he was just a great guy, he liked to have fun. He liked to, he absolutely loved wrestling. He did. He didn't like the drama of wrestling, but he loved wrestling.
He called me the enemy one time. I asked him if he'd come on the show, and he said, "I'm not talking to you. You're the enemy."
I can see that. Yeah, it's going to be tough. It really is, and Sean, being a part of School of Morton, that's one thing that has been tough being there as long as I have is we've lost a lot of people. We've lost guys that I've shared the ring with, shared the road with. It's tough. It has been tough. But I know this Sunday, they're going to do a 10 bell. They're going to do a memorial to him. And I know School of Morton is going to do something to his memory. And because we have to all the memories of people that we've lost. The last two have been really hurtful because they were, a lot of the other guys, they traveled in or, they had left for a while. Like I'm talking maybe a year or two since the last time that we had seen them. But Sean and Bob that was tough, and I know that they're chilling, watching this podcast and also watching SOM and making sure everything's good. So, if I could say anything, there's a donation thing that his mom's put out on Facebook. If you just look up Sean, she's tagged him. But if you can, anybody, if you can, help out, it's for Sean's funeral and for his little babies, You
And
know,
we will be sharing that on my personal Facebook page and also on my Instagram page, Joseph Hughes 601 Instagram and Joseph DH for Facebook. So if you guys want to donate to that, you're more than welcome to do that. Just find the link, click on it, and it'll go. It has a QR code that has Sean's face in the middle of it.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, before we get out, we always let everybody give shout outs to whoever they want to. And you're no different. So go ahead and hammer down on your shout outs.
Well, first and foremost, would be my wife. She's had my back this entire journey. We will celebrate 25 years in November, being married. And, through this journey of wrestling, she's always been there. She rides the roads with me. She's there, even though she tells me she won't be. If you get hurt, blah, 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 I'm not gonna. But then she's right there with for me, in whatever way that I need. So definitely my wife, my babies, both my kids are not babies anymore. They're 23 and 21, but still, Ricky Morton and Chase for being the greatest trainers. And the Stranges, Brent, James, Ryan, and Lisa. Definitely Lisa and James, because it's got Ricky's name on it and Ricky trains and everything, but if it wasn't for James, it wouldn't exist. And I've learned a lot through that place. I've learned, how to treat this business and how to walk in this business. So I appreciate all of them for everything that they've done for me, and my kids at Scornsville Middle School, 8th grade. Love y'all. So
Good deal. We appreciate it. Randy, what you got?
Thankful for the men and women that entertain us.
Yeah.
Great sport. Thankful for Jeff to being on to hear his story. Of course, always Joseph. And Joseph, please post the link on RiverCity-Media too, and we'll pin it
absolutely
and get that put up. Thank you all. It's been a very emotional night. Howie?
Jeff, do you have any merchandise or anything you want to put out there?
I don't have any merch. That's one lesson that I haven't learned that a lot of people tell me I need to. But I've always wanted to be that heel they want to stab in the parking lot. So, you don't exactly want to buy that person's stuff. But I am going to be getting some soon. Social media, though, you can look up Jeff Klepper on YouTube, Instagram. I've got to look it up because I never remember. Yeah, I don't remember my stuff. Facebook is Jeff Klepper, but go to the page. If you're a fan of wrestling, follow my page. Not, what I'm saying? Like people want to add me as a friend, and it's like, I don't know who you are. If I know you from wrestling, that's different. But if you're just, if you're a fan, follow my page. Because I've gotten to a place where I actually won't add people. My Instagram is Wrestling Teacher Mr. K. What was it? Wrestling Teacher. Yeah, Wrestling Teacher Mr. K. So, add me on or follow me on Instagram. TikTok, you can look up Jeff Klepper. And follow me up. But like I said, don't send me a friend request if you don't know me. Just because you're a fan does not mean we're friends.
And Jeff, what about bookings? If anybody's watching out there, any of the promoters are watching out there that want to book you, how could they do that, sir?
So you can message me on Facebook. That's an easy way. You can also email me at jeffklepperpro@gmail.com. And I'm currently working on Kentucky license. I've got to get a physical. That's going to be April 2nd, but I do have Virginia license. And, you know, if you're looking for an old school heel with professional gear, you know, then I'm your guy, and I would love to come and help you out, help your show. I am willing to set up, tear down, whatever needs to be done. You know, I'm not too good to do any of that.
Randy was talking about a while ago. He had dishes needed to wash. Would you do that?
Come on now. That's a little
Might have
low,
to do
Howie,
that
even
yourself.
for you.
Hey, thank God for heels. That's how I'm ending this
Yes,
show.
sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Hey, this is a great show. I appreciate everybody at the School of Morton, of course. I appreciate Joseph for bringing Jeff along with him. We honor School of Morton here. And please join us next week. And nobody tell Evan. I think I might become Jeff's fan club president. Yes, because you know I do like heels.
He's watching. He just saw it, QP.
Good night. God bless. Y'all be good.
Yes, sir.
You too, buddy. Y'all have a good